Hey everybody, Vince August here. It is Wednesday, April 21st, and normally on Tuesdays I do a live with Jess Miller, been good friend, and Michael Sirachi, and we do this thing called Judge Vinny. Last night I didn't want to do it because I just felt it wasn't the right time to do it. I felt last night was really a moment for really Black America to be heard and to say their voice. And although I have a background as, a criminal defense attorney for 25 years, a municipal court judge for 6 of those years, the last thing we needed was legal analysis last night. Last night was a moment to let really the people that felt most affected and most emotional about it have their word. And I didn't feel I had a place to say anything. But I do want to address certain issues with regards to some of the things I've heard in the last 12, 14 hours. One of the things is, the system worked. If you mean the system worked in the sense that a cop broke the law, was put on trial, other police officers came and testified against him and was convicted for breaking the law, if that's what you mean by the system worked, yeah, the system worked. And I think that's the only place the system worked, because there's a much larger failing of the system that, what I guess we're just going to ignore now because of this moment. And last night was a moment. This verdict is just a moment, because where the system failed is the fact that you had obviously someone who was, had 3 times the level of fentanyl in his system, which, that's a problem with regards to an opioid crisis and a drug crisis we have in this country that we're ignoring. And we're ignoring it during a pandemic where there's depression at an all-time high, suicide at an all-time high. So we have a drug crisis that leads people to these situations where they have encounters with police. So we're going to, that's part of the system as well. So I guess we're not going to address that part of the system. The second part of the system is that we had 3 officers go to make an arrest for a person that had a counterfeit 20, and it resulted in the person eventually getting out of the car, going onto the floor, EMS called to the scene, and a cop kneeling on him. And the other 2 cops didn't think at any point in time to say, hey, look, man, we got to get this guy to the hospital. Let's just put him in an ambulance, get him the help he needs, get him to a hospital, put him in a drug facility. So there's that part of the system where, that didn't work, okay? There was the part of the system where there was EMS on the scene, there were multiple police officers there, and no one stepped in to make sure that the right thing happened at that moment. So there's that part of the system. Then there was the part of the system that led to violent protests for months on end, $1 billion of damages, people losing their businesses, and I'm talking about, communities losing tons, okay? That part of the system didn't work. Then there's the part of the media system that turned this into a racial division issue, and this was the media that did this, because I have to be honest, look, there's a small percentage of people that came to the defense of Chauvin for whatever reason. I don't know many people that watched that video that rooted for this guy to be acquitted. I'll be honest. I don't know many of those people. I have heard some of the rhetoric from some of these people. And you know what? I wonder if it's just not to, again, draw attention to themselves for their own platform or for whatever reason. I don't know anyone that can watch that video, see somebody kneel on somebody, watch the person's life be taken from them, continue to kneel on them, whether it's on the neck, back, that's immaterial. The bottom line is a cop had someone on the ground, his life left him, and he stayed there. I don't know that that's a black-white issue. I'll be honest. I don't know people that see that and looked at that and said, you know what, I'm going to take the side of white. I don't see it. And the media jumped all over it to make it a racial issue when this is a policing issue. It really is. Now that there's racial tension in policing, I'm not going to ignore that. That there's racial bias in policing, I'm not going to ignore that. But what I'm saying is this case didn't divide us as a nation. The media used it to further divide us as a nation. The big thing for me is a guy shouldn't have to die for us to get to this place. Okay? And, last night I saw people doing two things. They were sort of celebrating this. And when I talk about people celebrating, again, this is not directed towards Black America in any way. I can't voice what you're feeling, nor am I attempting to. And I'm not going there. What I'm talking about is what I saw on the news and the media, that people are somehow celebrating this. And to me, there's nothing to celebrate here. I don't clap when the plane lands, okay? The plane is supposed to land, okay? The plane is built to take off and land. The pilot is trained to take off and land. Yes, there's wind, there's weather, there's all kinds of things. But the plane and the operation of the plane is built such to get you from point A to point B without a mechanical failure. It's going to work every time. I shouldn't have to clap when it lands. I shouldn't have to clap when the thing that we have in place works. It's supposed to work. So I'm not going to sit here and celebrate what should have happened. This is what should have happened. So again, I don't see the need to celebrate this. And the bigger thing is the way everyone's trying to capitalize on it is really the bigger problem here, because we're never going to get to the issue. So when I hear somebody like Chris Cuomo trying to tell me how this problem is not going to get fixed because, unless it happens to white people. Look, Chris Cuomo, you are the definition of white privilege. You're the last person that should be talking to white America. Your father was a governor of a state. Your brother is a governor of a state. You went to all, Ivy League schools. How really is your career merit based that you're going to sit from your, take your car from the Hamptons house to New York City? You're going to tell me, what white America should or shouldn't feel? Anderson Cooper, the son of Gloria Vanderbilt. Again, let's talk about a merit system. You people are the definition of white privilege. We have state-sponsored media here. When you have the brother of a governor on a news channel, when you have, Meghan McCain, the daughter of a former presidential candidate and senator on a TV news show, when you have Chelsea Clinton on ABC payroll, we have state-sponsored media here. So I don't need to hear from these white people telling other white people how there's systemic racism. You're the system. You're the system. So when Joe Biden, who sponsored the crime bill in the 90s, comes out and tells me how the system's broken, well, you've been part of the system for 47 years. When Kamala Harris tells me how the system is broken, well, you were the top cop in California hiding evidence, prosecuting people. You're part of the system. Nancy Pelosi, how many years have you been in the Senate? Maxine Waters, all of you people have been in the Senate for all of these years. You're the system. So if you tell me, look, the system is broken, well, where? If it's broken in New York City, okay, well, then that's the responsibility of the mayor, the chief of police. We know where it's broken. Well, then hold the people accountable. Because the average person that goes to work and just does their job, okay, and goes home, we don't run the system. I'm not running the system, okay? Goldman Sachs, okay, who doesn't hire black people, that now has one of their top employees as the governor of New Jersey. He was part of the system, okay? All of these banks that weren't giving loans to black people throughout decades in this country, they're the system. And what did we do during the 2000s? We bailed them out. So that's the system. So when Jeff Bezos, puts down an attempt to create a union down south at one of his plants, that's the system. The system is not the average guy that's watching the news. The system is the actual corporations and the actual people in power. So if you want to talk to me about systemic racism, you're the system. Fix it. Don't come out and try to celebrate this and say, thank you, George Floyd, for giving your life. No. Because if you ask George Floyd prior to May if he would rather be alive or die so a cop can go to prison, because that's all we have right now. See, George Floyd is dead. Derek Chauvin is in jail. And this has been going on for a year, but no one's talking to anybody about police reform. We're just talking to each other about racism in a system that is systemically racist, that we don't control. The people that are in control are telling us how it's systemically. Well, fix it. What more do you need? You've seen someone die on video. You saw riots. And what? Nothing. So when people are going to sit here and tell me how the judicial system worked, again, yeah, to the extent that someone broke a law, they were put on trial, and there was a verdict. Now, for the people out there that are actually saying, you know what, I'm glad he was found guilty, so at least there's no more riots and looting, you're applauding the wrong thing too. Because if you took away from this trial, you know what, look, put him in jail as long as it stops the rioting and looting, you obviously missed this whole thing too. You're rooting for the wrong thing as well. Okay, because that's not what you should be rooting for. And then for the people that just assumed guilty, you know what, there shouldn't be a trial, there shouldn't be anything. You know what, to say, well, I watched clips of the trial on TV, I kind of caught up on it in the news. No. That's like saying, I watched 9/11 on TV, I wasn't there, but I kind of got the feeling for what it was. No, unless you were there, you don't know what it was. You can't see that on TV and experience what it was. So don't immediately assume things that you don't know. So look, again, I think we're applauding the wrong things. I think we're celebrating and spiking a football that, quite honestly, there's the only thing that happened yesterday was there was a moment of, and I can't say what the feeling is because I'm not a black person, so I'm not going to try to put whatever the emotion in the word is. But Black America had a sense last night, had a moment last night, and that's all it was, is a moment. Because in the end, there's no change to policing that I've seen. Okay, we're still arguing over defund, shut it down, and nothing's being done. No one's talking to each other. We're as politically divided as we've ever been. Somehow this is being tied to a racial issue between American citizens, when if you're telling me the system's racist, well, that's not the citizens. That's the people in charge. That's the corporations. That's the government. That's the media. You know what? You have the power to actually do something, but instead what you want to do is profit from yelling and turning a crisis into a moment that you can capitalize on. So again, I'm not ready to celebrate anything. I'm, as a criminal defense attorney and a former judge, it's funny. I was taken off the bench because of my other career, and people looked and said, wow, what a mistake, man. We saw you on the bench. You were a guy who cared, and what, just because you were telling jokes and this and that? Yeah, that's also part of the system. See, part of the system said that I couldn't do my job effectively because of what I did on the side. That, again, there's, a cancel culture and a thing out there. Well, you can't make certain jokes or play certain characters on TV and be a compassionate human being in a courtroom. See, that's also part of the system. I'm also, as a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you right now, I represented people that, I got out of situations because of police mistakes, and I got evidence, that was illegally seized, thrown out, got my clients off, and I told my clients, listen, you're going to be under a microscope. Just know that. Now, just because I was able to, get rid of evidence and succeed on suppression of evidence, that doesn't mean you didn't do the thing that you did. It means that, I was able to suppress the evidence because the police made a mistake. So you know what? You need to stop doing what you're doing, and you're going to be hawked on. And sure enough, cops are pulling that person over left and right. So, the fact that this system somehow is, all of a sudden works. No, it worked in one case, the case that we saw play out on TV. So everyone, don't get ahead of yourselves, man. Let's not get over our skis here, because there's still a lot of things that aren't addressed. This is a moment. This is one case. This is one event. I still think we need a lot of work. And the people that are trying to capitalize on this, and the people that are telling you, last night was a first step in what? If you're not going to follow up, if none of our representatives are actually going to follow up, sit in a room and say, well, look, we're not defunding, okay? So we're not getting rid of the police. And at the same time, we have to make changes. If nothing happens, then I'm sorry. A guy died and a cop goes to jail for it. That's a win? I'm sorry. I don't see that as a win for anybody. Anybody. And all of the millions of dollars that George Floyd's family got isn't going to change this moment for them, isn't going to make it better. And, Nancy Pelosi, thank you, George Floyd, for giving your life. Trust me, I think George Floyd would rather be alive today than him no longer with us and a cop in jail. That's just my feeling on this.